You are now tuning in to Lex and RDDC broadcast station, serving up on the double doses for us all.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Real Double Dose channel. This is your host, Lex, coming to you straight from the heart where the talk is real and the vibe is always live. Like we always say, thank you for tuning in with us, because here, serving a slice of everyday life is what RDDC is all about. For any show requests, feedback, or anything under the sun that you can think of, get a hold of us at Real Double Dose Channel at yandex.com. That's YANDEX.com, and as well as realdoubledosechannel.blogspot.com. I will repeat it again, and we have all the links available, but we do have the .com as well for Real Double Dose Channel for all your apparel and so much more that you've asked for, and your free vacation giveaways with your gift card giveaways. Don't forget, we know COVID-19 is going on, but you still have claimed them. And all of you who are tuning in from all countries and all states, I want to say thank you again to every country. And I know you guys get upset because I can't name Germany, Poland, UK, Ireland, all of them, Nigeria, Canada. I can't say them all, but I'm going to get a list and say them but we just want to say thank you for tuning in. Stitcher Radio, Spreaker.com, Blueberry.com, Spotify, iHeart, iTunes, Deezer, Google Cast, and so much more. You can find those links also at SoundCloud and the .blogspot. But without further ado, we're not going to hold you back any further, because we have a wonderful guest expert speaker that we're just excited as on here to give us his information. And that is Dr. John Kruse. So we often think of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder as a condition that affects children. And I know this to be definitely not true, because adults have that too. But millions of American adults and different people from around the world also suffer from the serious and potentially debilitating condition. Most never seek help. And our guest today aims to help that. With Dr. John Kruse is a neuroscientist, as well as psychiatrist and author of a book, Recognizing Adult ADHD, and then also what Donald Trump can teach us about attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So I just want to definitely let you pay attention to this, because I know a lot of you have inquired about this and been excited about this. And now Dr. John Kruse is here. So how are you, Dr. Kruse, and what's going on in that wonderful mind of yours? And especially when we hear Donald Trump. Let's just get here. Okay.
Delighted to be here talking with you today, Lex. And I'm just still so puzzled that Donald Trump every day is out there showing us his inattention, his impulsive tweets, his hyperactivity, unable to sit still. And yet when we're talking about his mental health, we're talking about narcissism. And I'm not saying there's no narcissism there, but there's so much that he's doing, so much of the chaos, so much of the impulsivity, so much of the inconsistency, so much of the not planning ahead that everyone describes when they're describing president, but they're not mentioning the ADHD, which is what's causing all these symptoms.
Yes.
So in some ways, he's both a poster boy for adult ADHD, but even more, he's the poster boy for my book, because he's the poster boy for ADHD that's right in front of our face every day, day after day, and nobody's talking about it.
No, nobody is. And you know, that's something too, because I mean, from the way he does jump, people are just saying, oh, it's a billionaire thing. Oh, it's just how he is. And I'm like, it doesn't seem like that. Because even when he's talking, I looked at a speech he had last night, someone sent me over, and I was kind of like, he was just going on and randomly all over the place. And I was like, is this really happening right now about, narcissism? And I'm just saying, I definitely felt that. That's from having a very deep abusive connection with a person with narcissism. And it is very real, people. Very real. Yes.
Yeah. So what I tell people, focus on the narcissism with Mr. Trump, that if he were only, narcissists want to be seen as all powerful, smart, clever, good people. They don't continually shoot themselves in the foot by, again, blurting things out, saying inappropriate things, not planning for things that they were supposed to be taken care of. I'm not denying that narcissism is there. I'm just saying that the ADHD actually pervades and affects everything this guy does, and he doesn't make any sense if you aren't aware of the ADHD. You're not aware of why would he do this and then step on his own success here by doing that, and why does he always get off track, and why is he saying things that make himself sound stupid, like, let's inject bleach to get rid of COVID.
Yeah.
Lights on it.
That caught me off guard. I mean, when he said that, I was like, no way. I had to rewind that a little bit when that came out.
And if you look at that, I mean, he said the next day that it was sarcasm, and then people beat up on him because, when he's sarcastic, he's mean and sneering, and he wasn't sneering. If you misinterpret what sarcasm means and take it to mean I wasn't being serious, I think he's actually being truthful here. He wasn't throwing it out as a command to his followers, because when he does that, he speaks in two-word sentences, lock her up, build a wall, correct orders. But when he's just riffing on ideas that he half heard what one of his science public health advisors told him, something about UV, something about disinfectants, something about COVID, he's not processing it, he's not attending. And he's just sort of spitting it out there when it comes up.
I'm sorry.
Might be fine if he wasn't the president of the United States, but he was having a news conference, telling us how we should be responding and preparing and dealing with this.
Do you think, though, I mean, like, in his world, I don't know, I mean, I don't even think that Donald Trump actually thought he was going to become president. But then at the same time, I think he probably is shocked that he actually became one. But as far as, like, that goes with him not processing, do you think that he actually recognizes that there is something wrong with him, but yet he feels he's too much of a definitely higher platform now to really address it? Because we have a lot of people here who don't seek out help. And I was speaking to Dr. Kruse just previously, everyone, before we came on here live. And don't worry, we still got your on demand and downloads. Don't freak out. But I was speaking about the platonic kind of friendship that I had that was almost like a mother and child situation of my friend who was well into his 30s that had this for several years. And it was like, I don't know how Melania Trump deals with hers or whatever it is, but it felt like it was purgatory in a different way, because when they did get medication, they were a normal person, just completely like, quote, what we call, quote, normal. I know real normal is kind of far to exist, but I mean, they completely functioned. They stayed focused. They were there on point. And without it, they completely were just, like you said, all over the place.
So you brought up a bunch of really good points, and I'll try to get to them in some order.
Oh, sorry about that.
The first question is one is, I can say definitively he has ADHD because of all of our mental health conditions. It's the one that is defined purely by objective behavior. So we don't need to know what his motives are. We don't need to know what he's feeling. We don't need to know his internal thought process. We can just see all these inattentive behaviors, all these impulsive behaviors, all these hyperactive behaviors. You only need 5 as an adult to meet the criteria, 5 of 18. He unquestionably meets about 15, 16 of those 18.
Wow.
So I want to be careful, though, where I'm talking. So I can definitively state that anyone who goes through the criteria, there's no question he has the condition. But on other areas where I'm speculating, I don't know whether he's aware of it or not. Lots of people, certainly the older you get to, I mean, people are in their 20s, 30s, younger people, they've grown up in an era where there's more awareness of ADHD, there's more understanding. It can extend into adulthood. When I talk to people, and I'm in my late 50s, who are my age or older, even in the health professions, most of them still don't have a clue that adults could have ADHD. So there's sort of some cohort effect that we've learned more about it. It's more in the consciousness. But, for Trump in his 70s, I'm not sure to what extent he's aware of it. 2, we know that ADHD itself impairs your own ability to know what effect you're having on other people. People don't, with ADD, they don't know how often they're really intruding on others, interrupting others, getting off track, how often they're late, how often they're doing these things, because their own ADD makes them less aware, less able to monitor themselves. But jumping specifically, you touched on, the ADD medications can make you more normal, and this may be the most loaded and provocative thing I'm going to say during the hour. I think we have really good, solid evidence that Mr. Trump does take stimulant medications at certain times. So how can I say this? Because I'm not his doctor. I'm not looking at his medicine cabinet. I mean, we do have reports from people who were on camera with him on the Apprentice, who were actors or people in the crew who have said he was snorting Adderall then.
Yeah, I heard
so there's a meme out there on the internet about him snorting Adderall, and maybe all of his sniffing, maybe all of his weird mannerisms are signs of snorting Adderall. But what I said, and this starts back during the last election cycle, after his first 2 debates with Hillary, people were still treating him as a complete joke, that he couldn't string 3 sentences together, that he had to act more presidential if the Republicans were going to rally around him to win the election. And in the 3rd debate, again, whether you like his views or not, at least for the first hour, most of the reporters are saying, wait a minute, this guy's talking in full sentences. This guy's sort of looking like a normal person. And what I noticed is that in addition to speaking in full sentences, and I went back and actually physically, took the videotapes and measured it, his gestures, his torso twisting, his head tilts, his walking around dropped to a third of what they were in the first two debates at the same time. And again, since I had already assessed him as having ADHD, if you have ADHD and you focus on trying to control your speech, maybe you can do that, but then your movements are going to go all over the place. On the other hand, if you sort of sit on your hands and are trying to control your hyperactivity, your speech is going to be worse than ever. So he was doing both at the same time, controlling his speech and controlling his physical manifestations of hyperactivity, which is extremely hard to do simultaneously. But the real kicker and the absolute physiologic proof is that his pupils were substantially dilated during that third debate. So if you look at his and Hillary's pupils' first two debates, they're both tiny little pinpoints, covering maybe 10% of the pupil. The pupils covering 10% of the iris, the colored part of the eye. If you look at the third debate, Hillary's eyes are still pinpointed. Still bright lights on the stage. The lighting isn't changing. His pupils are covering about half of his eyes. And there's only a few substances, and stimulant medications are the only ones I know of that in the setting of ADD will make your pupils dilated, will reduce your hyperactivity, and will enable you to speak in coherent sentences. And after I sort of put all those together, I went and looked because people were talking State of the Union. He also had huge dilated pupils. There's a few presentations like the State of the Union, like after we killed the leader of ISIS, Baghdadi, and he gave a speech about that, the 4th of July speech, the Build the Wall speech. When he knows there's a big audience that's not his base, where he has to come across as presidential and organized somewhat and read from his teleprompter without going astray, he is taking stimulant medications because we can see, compared to other things he's doing that same week, pupils are dilated, hyperactivity drops to a third, and the ability to speak in coherent sentences jumps from no ability to fairly good at that. There's absolutely nothing other than a stimulant medication that could be doing that.
Wow.
So I don't know that he's actually snorting Adderall. I don't know if it's Adderall. I don't know if it's Ritalin. I don't know if it's something else. And lots of people who are in this, sort of watching him and commenting on, he's snorting Adderall, they have it backwards because they are blaming his hyperactivity on, his Adderall use. But it's completely opposite. It's when his pupils are dilated. So what I've said is, rather than riffing on his sniffing, we should be supporting his snorting. He is more functional.
I like that. Riffing on his sniffing and supporting. It makes sense, though. It does. At least he's trying to come to some complacency in his mind.
Yeah, so I'd say, again, whether even he's identifying it as ADHD or not, somehow he is getting stimulant medication, and sometime he's knowing that at certain important times he should be taking it. And the cool part is all of us can look at him and tell when he's doing it.
Yeah.
His eyes, pupils are dilated. And I think we should be out there saying, we want you on this every single day, not just, for a few special events or occasions. He should be able to be prepared and process information every day, because who knows what surprises are coming up in the world.
That is true. So what about a person who, I'm pretty sure all the people tuning in and the ones that will be downloading to tune in. So what about them asking about as far as high stress positions, being able to be in that? Some people say they only feel, from the inquiries we've gotten from some of the emails, some of the guests have said, I only feel these situations when I'm at work, or I only feel it sometimes. But I know what you mean about the dilated pupils, because that was happening with one of my old friends. Like every time when he had normalcy, it was his eyes were just huge. Like the inside of that pupil was just taking over, like the full moon. And when he wasn't, it was like two little beady dots that were in there. And I was like, wow. So like when it took over, because for a while he couldn't get his medication. And then all of a sudden he reverted to street. He couldn't get his Adderall. I think the doctors might have thought that. But I remember one time he had came back over to my house, and I had asked him, why are you acting so chill? Like, this is not you. Usually you're overly, I don't want to say fidgety, because some people are just fidgety, but he was completely not his ADHD adult self that I remember. And he was like, oh, I got so desperate just to, be normal. I got high with my friend. And I said, hi. And I had found out that he wasn't diving in methamphetamine, which they say is basically the street drug of what some of the chemicals or compounds are. I don't know all the way, people. I'm just saying of Adderall. And he acted completely like you wouldn't even thought the guy was high. He acted like he had common control. Yeah. It was just everything was his perception. Remember that movie Limitless that came out? It reminded me of that. It was like probably about several years ago, but it reminded me of Limitless, except for the whole, making $1 million in the stock market. It was just like a night and day at that point. But can people still I know they're still trying to live lives, but a lot of them have expressed how difficult it is to keep themselves, in a position to where they can finish their work, let alone function in a relationship. Is that still possible, even if they're trying to still manage going without seeking help for ADHD?
Well, so to try to explain that, I mentioned that our official criteria for ADHD are 9 symptoms of inattention and 9 symptoms of hyperactivity and impulsivity, but our much broader understanding of what ADHD is about is that it affects the executive functions of the brain. So how your brain controls and directs attention, how it sets priorities, how it plans, how it does time management, how it affects working memory, how you suppress impulses, how you monitor your own body, and how you regulate your own emotions.
Wow.
And those are all an important part of life, but people can have other strengths. So one is intelligence is completely separate from ADD. So there's lots of really bright kids who have ADD, but they don't need to study for their tests. They don't even need to turn in their homework. They can ace the tests and do well in their school until it catches up to them. Or, someone, as you brought up, sort of being a millionaire and being rich. If you're rich enough, you can pay people to carry out your executive functions for you. You can have people organize your whole life. You couldn't keep on time yourself, but you have a secretary and a chauffeur to drive you places. You're not going to be late.
Very true.
Donald Trump, one of the things he's done is he's had people take care of he's even bragged that he's never changed a diaper. So he delegated out executive functioning of being a father to his wives and his caretakers. He delegated, when he brags about his success in the real estate world, other than inheriting millions from his dad, and he didn't design the clever contracts where when things blew up and went bankrupt, everyone else got stuck with it, and he didn't, he still got his money. Those are executive functions in terms of organizing how his business was laid out. Those are delegated to lawyers. Others did it for him.
Yeah.
And again, even among his followers, the ones who think, he's done a wonderful job. But what has he done a wonderful job at? Stacking the courts with conservative justices. He doesn't even know the names of the people he put on the court. He didn't do that. He delegated that to Mitch McConnell and the Federal Society and other people who are, he signed off on it, but he wasn't vetting any of these people to know if they're qualified.
No.
So if you have money, if you have, can hire secretaries, if you can have executive assistants to keep you on track, there are ways to substitute, not having some of these executive functions in place. And that can carry you to a certain amount of success. And I'd say there are elements of ADHD that almost certainly contributed to Donald Trump's success. So people, even though some of us cringe when he just blurts out whatever's at the top of his mind, there's a big segment of the population that likes that because he's being authentic. He's not being PC. He's really telling us how he feels at the moment.
Yeah, very true.
And they see politicians like, Barack Obama or Gavin Newsom here in California who actually stop and think before they speak. And, people who don't like politicians are saying, if they have to stop and think, they're trying to hide something or cover something over. I like someone who just blurts out whatever they say.
Yeah.
I prefer someone who actually thinks, but I can get why it would be appealing.
Well, that's true.
Part of his appeal.
That is very true. So the difference between, and this is something I have to say too, I know we had, what is it? Okay, so Anthony was saying, Megan, and I think she's in Fort Myers, Florida, she had a question about what is the difference between ADD and ADHD. Megan, thank you for that question for Dr. Kruse, because I had the same question, Dr. Kruse. In that way. Yeah.
It's a good question, and I hear it a lot, and the simple answer is the official label for all of it by the American Psychiatric Association has a manual called the DSM-5, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. It is all considered ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. But then we say there are two different types. There's a type that's primarily inattentive, and there's a type that's primarily hyperactive. But then we go and confuse it even more by saying, well, actually, 2/3 of people with ADD have a combined type, both features in it.
Oh.
So there's still some people who use ADD to mean non-hyperactive ADD.
Okay.
That's sort of an informal usage. And actually, I mean, you'll hear me probably switching back and forth between the two with, not thinking too much about it. What I've seen is most people identify, the term they learned growing up or in training or when they were given the label themselves is what they tend to stick with. So we use it to freely back and forth, but officially it's all ADHD right now.
Oh, wow. Well, you know what? I needed clarity. Thank you. I know I'm not going to suffocate Megan's question. I definitely was asking about that myself. I had to know, and I'm thankful that you gave me clarity. Oh, us clarity on that as well. So Megan had another question for you, Dr. Kruse. And, this is sent over from Tony. But okay, so her other question is, she's been in a 9-year relationship with her fiance. She says, quote, still fiance, because he refuses to get help for his ADHD issues that are driving her nuts. So should she or a person stay in a relationship with someone who knows what they have, but yet does not seek help for their condition while driving her, quote, insane, she says. Okay.
I mean, that's a loaded relationship issue. So I'll say a couple things. A really good resource for ADHD in relationships, there's a book by Gina Pera, P-E-R-A, called Is It You, Me, or Adult ADHD? She also has an award-winning blog, and what she writes about primarily is actually the partners of people with ADHD and the problems they face. So that's a good resource, hopefully for her. Sometimes it's a good match to have two people with ADHD in a relationship. Sometimes it's a good complementary match to have one person with ADHD and one without. In terms of getting her fiance help, the first step I would take is trying to sort out why he's not. Is he afraid of some bad outcome? Is he afraid of the label of ADHD? Is he afraid of being put on medications? Because although medications are what's been proven to work for a big percentage of the people and work quickly and dramatically, there are certainly non-medication approaches. There are medications that aren't stimulant medications that are effective. But I would say for anyone who has it, the more they can learn about themselves and learn how their behaviors may be impacting those around them, the better off they can be. So there's also good, self-educational blogs. One of my patients' favorite is one called How to ADHD. It's a YouTube channel. So I would start with trying to get him to educate himself more about what's going on with him and trying to get him to verbalize what it is that makes him reluctant.
Oh, wow.
And sort of going further, another piece of it is many people with ADHD are highly creative, are sort of quirky, are idiosyncratic. They're not following the A, B, C, D linear order of things. And many of them worry, if I were medicated, if I stayed on time more, if I stayed on track in my conversation, is this going to make me a zombie? Is this going to take away my creative spirit and my individuality? And the simple answer is I've treated hundreds of people with ADHD over the last 2.5 decades. I haven't seen anyone have their creativity destroyed or lost by these medications. What they say time after time is that I'm still me, but now I can take my creative energies and be productive with them. I can get that statue, finished sculpting. I can finish that composition I've been writing and, for the symphony that I've been working with. I can finish my painting or my other artwork or finish the computer coding that I couldn't ever make into coherent problem or product because I kept getting off track. So. Oh,
okay. I see.
So then some of the reason or simple explanation why is that ADHD is not just a simple chemical issue. It has much more to do with how parts of the brain are wired together. It's a network system, and although medications can be powerfully helpful, they're never going to eradicate all of the ADD.
Wow. That is so deep. Oh, you know what? And that's almost, yeah. Okay, so stemming off of that, I told Tony we'll take a few questions, but stemming off of that, I was at Michael from Fresno, California. Hi, Mike. Has a question, and he says, Dr. Kruse, will my kids inherit my ADHD? Wow, that's pretty deep.
Yeah, and the simple answer there is it's what probably is the answer. So part of, the genetic connection in ADHD is bigger than the genetic connection in depression. It's probably at least as strong as the genetic connection in schizophrenia.
Wow.
And this was actually an interesting part of how we finally started figuring out adults had ADHD. Is for years it was identified as a kid's disease and or condition, and the dogma was all kids outgrow it. But then people started noticing all these parents that are bringing their kids to the ADD treatment center are showing up late and getting mixed up, which is their appointment day, and confusing the medications and showing a whole range of ADD behaviors themselves as adults. So,
wow.
Like everything in mental health or human nature, it's not complete genetics. It's not that if you have, and it's not a single gene. It's, from what we know, hundreds of genes, each contributing a tiny, tiny part. But this does run very strongly in families. So there's a high likelihood that children of someone with ADHD will have at least significant symptoms on the ADD spectrum.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean. Wow. Well, Michael, I hope that does help with it, because I was thinking that too. I'm like, okay, well, will it go, pass on to the gene of that? Because, okay, so his second, and we're going to stop with Michael. But because I had a question too I wanted to ask. But okay, Michael's last question is, okay, can it also be treated holistically for your child if they do show signs, aka at a young age, aka young age? Okay. So holistic, I don't know if they can take chemicals. Obviously, you know that. I mean, like take the medication or whatever at a young age.
Yeah. So this is one area in psychiatry and not too many others, and even in general medicine, where the medications have actually been studied much more extensively in kids than in adults. Again, partly because for years we only saw it in adults. We only recognized it in kids. So again, the stimulants have been studied extensively in kids, and most kids can take them safely. On the other hand, we know that helping structure the children's environment, helping make sure bedtimes are regular, and feeding times are regular, reducing the amount of junk food, making sure there's adequate exercise, making sure that there's time and space for relaxation and or meditation if they can do it. So exercise, meditation, dietary effects all seem to be somewhat helpful. Again, they're probably not going to eradicate the ADD, but if they help the kid function well enough that they're dealing well without medications, that's a course of action that's okay for some kids.
Wow.
So again, so the diagnosis again doesn't lock you into, having to take medications, but still the stimulant medications are what we have the strongest data for efficacy, for being helpful. But again, that doesn't mean every kid or every adult has to be on them.
No, absolutely not. So ADHD, it doesn't necessarily mean that someone can't focus in on what they got to do. So when they have the diagnosis of it, it just basically lets them know what's kind of going on with why they are reacting the way they are, or why they're moving around from it. So it's a chemical. Is it not a chemical? You said not a chemical off balance in the brain per se, but it's just more so of Well, I don't even know how to say it like you do. I can't articulate it the way you say it so elegantly.
So again, what we know is that the label's a pretty bad label. That it isn't about a deficit in attention, because kids and adults with ADHD are really good at focusing on what interests them. They just may not be that good at focusing on what's important in their lives. So I have adults with ADHD who get 400 parking tickets. They know Tuesday is street cleaning day and they need to get out there to, move their car so it doesn't get a ticket. Hey, there's cool cat videos on, or, they're listening to a podcast, or they, forgot that they hadn't done the dishes, so they go and do the dishes, and then they're 20 minutes late moving their car. So ADHD is again about executive functions of the brain, how the brain controls the flow of information into the brain and the flow of information out of the brain. So it affects how you pay attention, direct attention, maintain attention, but also how you organize information, how you prioritize information, how you do long-term planning, how you monitor your own body. Are you hungry now? Are you sleepy now? Am I talking too loudly? Those are things people with ADHD are not as good at usually. How they manage time and how they regulate their own emotions. And everyone with ADHD doesn't have to have problems in every one of these, what are called executive functions. But usually they have deficits in multiple areas of what we call executive functions.
Oh, okay. So, do you think, and it's actually a good question, but do you, from your expertise and different things that you've got a chance to see over the decades and having your patients and talking to people, if President Trump was to come out and just be like, hey, I'm going to go get tested for it or admit to it or try to seek out what's going on with him, will it be better for people to be more of, okay, I'm going to come out now. Maybe the president's coming out with it on a huge platform. Let me just be open about what's going on with me.
That sounds like a lead into my very book. I've been interested in adult ADD for 20-something years. During the last election, lots of my patients started, when they'd see Trump, jumping from topic to topic and wandering around the stage, they'd say, oh my God, that's what I look like, don't I? He has ADHD. And I sort of, thought it was a jokey thing at the beginning. And then I sat down and went through all the criteria and that he had it robustly. And while I was thinking about this, one of my patients, and yes, I'm in liberal San Francisco, this was actually a woman from the Central Valley. She's not politically motivated, but she said, I know he has ADHD, and the most important, helpful thing he could do for me would be to come out about his ADHD.
Oh, yeah.
Because so many areas of her life, this is an extremely bright woman who had failed careers as an actress, as a veterinarian assistant, as a storage facility manager, as job after job after job, and relationship after relationship, because people would say she's bright, she's good looking, she's personable, and yet she'd be late, she'd get off track, she wouldn't get tasks done on time, and they'd say, oh, you're being lazy, oh, you're being dishonest, oh, you're being this or that, without getting, these weren't things she was trying to screw up on. This was because she doesn't stay on track with anything.
Yeah.
So her feeling was, Trump coming out with ADHD, and that's the whole purpose of my book, is to use Donald Trump to educate people about ADHD. And then the secondary concern is using ADHD to explain him. Because if you don't understand that part of him, the guy doesn't make any sense.
No. And I think that's why he made sense to me. In a different way, okay, people, you can try to scorch me all you want. I'm ready for your 7,000 emails. So I'm just saying, he made sense to me because I was used to seeing it face to face every day for several years. So, at the same time, when you have that, you have a very, very deep perception, plus you studied it, gone through it, and you're still moving on this journey with it and helping others. It's like literally when he was jumping from conversation to conversation, I was piecing it together. I hope I'm just saying, I don't know. I just saw it.
Well, what's funny about that, when my book came out last year, before it came out, I went to the annual psychiatrist meeting, which is in San Francisco. And I like to think I know the smarter, more intelligent, more perceptive psychiatrists. And at least half of the ones I spoke to when I mentioned my book sort of slapped their hand on their forehead and said, oh my God, you're right. He has ADHD. I hadn't even thought of it because I was so fascinated with his sociopathic tendencies or his narcissism or all what we call access to or characterologic aspects that they completely missed the ADD. And yet, again, this is not subtle. This is in absolutely every description of the man, of how chaotic his administration has been, how he doesn't follow up on tasks, how he doesn't prepare for anything. His advisors were begging him to prepare for the debates with Hillary. He didn't do any studying. When he flew to North Korea to meet with Kim Jong-un, there was no agreement in place. He just thought he could wing it and make a success of it. And people focused, oh, that's just narcissism. But no, a good narcissist plans ahead. They would have wanted success in these situations.
Yeah.
And this guy doesn't plan, and that's his ADHD.
Man, that's so deep. Like Dr. Kruse, you have no idea how. I know for all the wonderful voices out there. Especially Michael and different ones, Katie, all of them who have inquired about it. But I mean, it gives me enlightenment too, because I mean, when you've been in a situation, I always had to ask myself, what am I doing wrong? I mean, am I helping this person? Am I bad? Because I'm very, at that point, I was very clear cut, concise, kind of strict. I was like a loving drill sergeant, they called me, where I was kind of like, okay, come on, it's time to fix the bed. And then I felt like, I'm like, oh my God, I feel bad. I'm talking down to this person. But then I was like, no, because I realized when I tested it out, Dr. Kruse. I tested it out for a couple of days. I didn't say a thing. I didn't say anything about, picking up. I mean, this is I think he was about 35 at the time. I was like, okay, well, why don't you pick up, your video game, controller? Why you have food all over the counter? Come on, let's finish the dishes. Remember, you're supposed to do this. So I had a whole itinerary for his whole schedule. Plus I had to do my schedule. And he was like, I can't function because I have never got a chance to be consistent with my medicine ever since I got kicked off my insurance. I'm like, okay. But then it came to, him being sent to a boys' home, different things happening, and his teachers telling him he'll never amount to anything. And I just didn't know where to put it at. I was kind of like, was it the abuse that he went through, the psychological abuse? Was it the point that he just started going for street medications instead of the doctor medications? I mean, it literally made me feel like I was in a whole alternate universe. For myself. And I don't mean, anyone who's tuning in, I'm sorry. I'm not attacking anyone with it, because I know I have family members with it. I don't even know if I have a little bit of it. I just have so much energy. I'm just to the point where I kind of go in my little shell and become an introvert afterwards, after a while, to recharge my energy. But at the same time, it's like it just gets to that point where it's like building up as a momentum, and then it would just be freaked out. So I went and traveled. I think I was going over to Washington for like probably about 3 weeks. And within that 3 weeks time, I left with everything in place on point. It was scary. It was like leaving a child. I mean, literally, I felt like that at that point for his certain situation. I left him on his own. And by the time I got back, he had lost both of his jobs. The house was in disarray, and the landlord had called me like, honey, you must be gone because it is a catastrophe over here. And I was like, what happened in less than 2 weeks? Like, he completely broke apart the moment that I was not there to structure his day or kind of like tell him, hey, you need to do this. Hey, you need to go to work. Hey, it's kind of like, and then job after job after job, he would come back and say, oh, the boss didn't like me. Then to have another job I think the only job he kept was 3 months consistently. And then that they had to travel from different places. And I was like, well, maybe there's some help here. But after that, it was just job after job after job after job after job. And it was it was a spinning cycle to do that. So at the same time, when you get the concept of saying, the whole world is getting more ADHD kind of mentality or attitude, or kind of turning into that. Is that pinpointing just us being on social media, kind of like cut clear, concise about jumping from this conversation in this app to TikTok to Instagram to this conversation?
Yeah. I think that, I mean, there's measurements that, what length of a scene in a movie people like has shrunk and shrunk and shrunk. We have shorter attention spans. In the old days, they could see something unspool slowly on the screen, but now we can so program that 400 news feeds are coming into our brain at the same time, and you're expected not just to respond to each one of them, and they're geared to pick on the emotional themes, and you're being trained not to sit, pause, and deeply consider and put this in perspective and consider the context and the history and what it means. It's, no, respond to this because this is coming up next. You have to respond to that. So what I say is that Trump is both Trump is completely inconceivable in a world where we weren't already becoming more ADD-like. We would want leaders who can speak in full sentences. We would want leaders who can discuss their policy ideas. But he's not only the product of our ADHD world, he's part of what's driving us ever more ADHD-like, because he'll tweet out 400 different things a day, and people have to respond to him because he's going to do another one in 2 seconds. And if they don't respond, they'll missed out on that, strand of communication.
That is so epic. I mean, like, this whole conversation is so, you know what, Dr. Kruse, please, definitely, just keep enlightening us, because at this point, you've given me so much clarity. I feel greedy. I know this is going out to the masses, and I love you all, but I'm saying I do feel greedy because I'm just like a school kid, like chomping at the bit for the teacher to tell me what's been going on with how I couldn't find the answers. into what was going on. And you know, and I'm just going to say, from the brothers and sisters and the children and still teens that are behind those walls, what I do appreciate the most of just even having, you know, one of my I call them my good friends who have been locked away for about 18 years now, who will be out in the next year. He's freaked out about the fast world he's walking into, but the conversation's so different, even though it's still inside of a quote institutionalized mindset wall. It gets to the point of where they can slow down and process things. Whereas I was sitting there talking to my friend and she was like, okay, wait a minute. I just got a thing from Snapchat. Oh, wait, someone just Facebooked me. Oh, did it? And I'm like, wait a minute. What happened? And they're like, well, what would you do, Lex? Like, what is your favorite pastime? I said, my favorite pastime is writing, reading, or giving something to someone that they can help. I said, that's where I slow myself down at. And I only look at those things. Like I told people, they're like, oh, you're not really a Facebook person. I said, well, here's the thing. I don't mind putting a picture up every couple months. I don't mind putting up something every couple weeks, but you can find me on my downtime when I can't sleep at 11 p.m. But I can't consume myself with it because I feel like my mind is exploding. And maybe my situation dealing with having my friend have that, in my opinion, only my opinion, his severe ADHD. Like, I mean, to me, it was severe. It got worse through the years, of what happened. And even to the point of where I had to like literally force him almost verbally to change his clothes. To that point to where he didn't even care about going to the shower. And I was like, wow, this is getting crazy. From 5 years to the last couple of years, I was like, wow, I have to tell, you know, but I realized at that point, I couldn't help. I mean, like, I don't know what to tell people who say, hey, Dr. Kruse, what should I do about my relationship, being with someone like that who won't get help? And I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is it a relationship at that point? I mean, like, even though we're not getting into like love and family, it's like, is it a relationship if you're becoming the caregiver to that person at that point because you're finding yourself more in a society like ADHD and then still having a partner dealing with ADHD that's not treated?
So I've had this conversation with two different people who are young people in relationships, and one of the things we talked about is, so one guy can't make it on time to any of his appointments, even the cocktail things on Zoom he's doing with his friends, and we talked about whether he could get his wife to help remind him. And then we wound up talking about he doesn't want her nagging him. Yeah. But his brain actually could use reminding, and that it wasn't until he understood he had ADHD and she understood he had ADHD that they could be doing almost exactly the same thing, getting her to remind him. But if they're doing it in the framework of she understands he needs this because this is something his brain doesn't do well, there's less resentment on her part, there's less guilt and shame on his part. It's just, you know, this is like an alarm on my clock. But if it was, you know, you're always being late and making us embarrassed and screwing up because of that, and that's why I have to nag you about it, then almost the same content, you know, the same reminder isn't just a reminder, it's a nagging. Oh. So this is where sort of understanding and you could decide, I don't want to be in a relationship where I have to remind my partner to do all this. I mean, that's a separate issue. But if you can't even identify correctly what's going on, then there's no hope for sort of a pleasant, amicable solution to it. Wow. So part of my whole book, you know, it's titled Recognizing Adult ADHD, Deaf People Recognize It When It's There. And I'm not asking people to make diagnoses of themselves or their partner or their president or their coworker, but it's more in the service. You know, we've taught people the signs of a heart attack or the signs of a stroke, so you get to the hospital on time and you get to the professionals who can treat it. So this is to make more people aware of the broad range of potential symptoms for ADHD, so if they think that's what's going on, they can go to a mental health expert who can evaluate and check it out and discuss the different options with them. Yeah,
I mean, they need, and we needed to have a refreshment of what was going on. Because that, I mean, people like it or not, that is a clarity level to where it's not very, I mean, it's not very clear open. Like I used to hear about it years ago, like ADHD, different ones going on. And then my nephew, I think his doctor has said something about he's growing out of it or grew out of it. Now he's about 14, but he had, I think autism. So obviously it's a different scale, but at the same time, I started hearing more about autism. And I'm like, what happened to ADHD? Because I see it so many times. And even my other friend, his little sister, I mean, even at 18, she just had the hardest time dealing with it and constantly. But when she had her medication, she was completely the wonderful girl that she was, and all of a sudden when she didn't have it, you definitely knew. It was to the point where it was a teacup thrown across the wall. It was just that point, and she had it and plus her own personality mixed in with it. I was I was running.
And that highlights one important aspect of the stimulants, that they're not only tools that are effective for helping with the concentration and the cognitive and the thinking aspects of ADHD, but for those who have emotional dysregulation, the stimulants actually help them to control their own emotions better. So that, some people are thinking, my God, my kid's irritable and at times violent and hyperactive, and I'm going to give him speed? Isn't that going to jack him up more or make him more emotionally volatile? And the answer is, several studies have looked at it pretty rigorously, and these same emotions, which, if they're too big a dose, they can make anyone edgy and amped up. But with someone with ADHD, if they're in the right dosage range, they can help with focus and attention on cognitive tasks and also with control of emotions in the feeling realm.
You know what? I understand why someone as special as you got into this, because there's certain people that are just called for a calling. There's just individuals, and I'm not saying that people out there can't pursue something that never was, quote, something there, but you can tell how you're deep into helping those and kind of getting through that whole mental blockage that people say that they're in, like recognizing adult ADHD. And it is true what Donald Trump can teach us about attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Why? Because he's on a public platform, and then we can see him all the time doing it. And like you said, that lady has said, man, he reminds me of myself. That's what I look like. Sometimes you need a reflection in the mirror to show you what you're dealing with. Really.
Yeah, so this isn't the label to make people feel bad or ashamed or this is to help with understanding and to suggest what may be effective interventions, treatments, approaches to dealing with it.
Yeah. And that's what I love about the approach. It's like, okay, well, it gives people attention, because right now that is what's going on. It is when you put in anything, when you wake up in the morning, it's going to be about Donald Trump. But here's the thing. You're recognizing something, and we're recognizing something that's going on with him that he may be aware of or not himself. And then we can see it in each other. Just like people watch the TV show Biggest Loser. Oh my gosh, look at these people losing this weight. I look like this person. Or look at this person who's obsessed over gardening. My garden looks just like hers. I'm just like her. I'm obsessed over tulips. Whatever it might be, there's some comparison to the things going on with those things. And I just want to say I'm happy that you got a chance to come on here with us and share those deep insights, Dr. Kruse. I like saying Dr. Kruse. It kind of just chills when you're saying a little bit on here. So is there anything that you want to leave off with all the RDDC families and the new ones and new people that are coming in from all over the world, that before we get off of this segment?
I'm just to summarize again that my book's trying to help people be more aware of ADHD. It's not trying to force you to diagnose friends or neighbors or children or parents, but to give you some idea of what's going on and to have that person seek appropriate help for sorting it out, and that there are a range of treatment options for help with people with ADHD. So that's one of the nice things. This is highly treatable. Yeah.
And then it says recognized, and then you still have people, wonderful people in their industry, in their field, like Dr. John Kruse, who specializes in it and definitely deals with it head on, every day, and gets some clarity about what's going on. So we want to say, the six of us here, we want to say thank you, Dr. John Kruse, for being on here with us. And everyone who's tuning in now, later, downloading, whatever it might be, you can also find Dr. John Kruse's information and his bio and just goodies over at realdoubledosechannel.blogspot.com, a dedicated blog just for him, permanently on there. And you can also, in the meantime as well, email Dr. Kruse, and that is at dockruse@gmail.com. That's DOCKRUSE@gmail.com. And also go to www.drjohnkruse.com. And if you have help with the cruise, that's KRUSE.com, Dr. Kruse. So we want to just say,
I'll just throw in the books on Amazon. It's on from Barnes & Noble. It's on Smashworks for independent booksellers. It's available at libraries. They can at least get an electronic copy to you. There's an audiobook version. So it's It's available in lots of formats.
Lots of formats, people. You can put it in your little MP3, your earphones. You can have it there. And if you really want to seek it, Michael, all those are there who had the live questions and so forth. Don't be afraid to come out more. All those who are out there who are afraid to be diagnosed at some point in your life, if people have to be coming out about their diabetes, cancer diagnosis, different things going on with them, just melanoma, everything from under the sun. Don't be afraid to come out with this and live more peaceful, knowing that you can have someone and have some kind of roadmap into getting help with this and organizing your life the way you know it can be, instead of being miserable every single day with something you feel like you have no help about. But you have to speak up and come out about it, at least to yourself first, and get the first step in the right direction. So I will say that, But so thank you, Dr. John Kruse, for being on here with us. Everyone, we want to say thank you for being here with us again. And remember, you can always come back, Dr. Kruse, if you want us to cruise down that avenue and learn some more with you, whatever you want. I'm game. I'm game for learning more and putting that into the universe and helping those out there and helping my own clarity for the 7 years of questions I've had that I never got answered until today. So I'm thankful for that. And we're thankful that you're here. So all those, again, you can check out Real Double Dose channel at yandex.com. That's YANDEX.com and realdoubledosechannel.blogspot.com. And remember to go to www.drjohnkruse.com. And remember to be the change, feel the passion, embrace the power of the spirit, #speak up, and make the change of your life the best one. And we'll be back with you very, very, very soon.